Oh, hello. I did not see you there. I was miles away thinking, good day to you, in the Viking tongue. And yes, I am your host for the day. I am Bragi. Now, I am carrying a large mallet. There you go. A bit of a close-up for you. And, well, you may be asking yourself, well, why are you carrying a mallet? Well, I was out. I was checking the borders of my land. And to the east, there is an old bog, an old marsh, which I was knocking some fence posts in to stop my livestock from ending up in the marsh. Very dangerous place. And this reminded me of an old Swedish folk tale I was told around the fire, the hearth, as a child by my father, Magnar. And the tale comes from Sweden, the land of those Swedish Vikings, a very good bunch of lads. And the story is called Karl Ersson's Burden. And before we begin, for this is a ghost story and a scary story, I urge you to get a drink and sit down and take 5 minutes out of your very busy lives. Now, the other day, well, I was sitting on a log. In this case, I was sitting on my hammer. I was thinking of this story, and I thought I must tell you this story. And this story, like I said, is set in Sweden and could be 1,000 years old. Now, one day there was a man, a Viking. He was a very tall man with a very big beard, and his name was Karl Ersson. And Karl, well, he had had a busy few days. He's been away, and he's been staying with his sister, Anna of Nergard, and her small farmstead. And a few days passed, it was time for him to go back to his own longhouse. And he was going to walk along an old road, which went past a bog and a marsh. And so the morning came. He got a leather sack with a bit of food in. After all, if you're walking, you have to make sure you got a bit of food, and you also had a good axe and a good old knife. And he set off. And he'd been walking a few hours when he had a rest by a tree. He ate a very tiny apple. Apples were much smaller in those days. And he decided that, well, he was going to carry on. But he came to the bit in the afternoon of the road, which was next to an old bog, an old marsh. And he remembered the stories that had been told before about this place, and about the very fact that it is said to be haunted by spirits and demons and all manner of creatures you do not want to see. It was late afternoon. There wasn't much time left with daylight. The sun would soon set, and he was walking along, but he kept on hearing strange noises, whisperings and cries and moans. And being bored and passing the time, he tried to emulate these noises. Ooh, ah, shh, in a fun way. But something very strange happened. As the further along the marsh he walked, something supernatural happened to him. And you may be asking yourself, whoa, Bragi, what is that thing? Well, he felt as if there was a massive weight on his back. A weight which was getting heavier and heavier and heavier the further along the marsh he went. And the sounds and the whimperings and the noises, ooh, kept on carrying on. And the weight, the burden, Karl Ersson's burden, got heavier. His legs were struggling to cope with the weight, but he looked round. There was nothing there. He thought, well, is there a person with the hands on my back? No, there isn't. And again he looked round, and there was nobody there. but he felt as if there was a weight of a whole person on his back. And the more he walked, the more leagues he covered back to his old village where his longhouse stood, the heavier the burden got. "Oh," he said, "this is heavy. What is it? What is this spirit that is on my back?" He had no answers. And yes, I'd imagine he was scared. Would you be scared? I would be. And so he continued to walk. He had a couple of leagues left. This was indeed a very big marsh. And eventually, in the distance, he looked, and he could see the village. And he thought, at last I'm nearly home. But his legs were so tired and so exhausted with carrying this invisible weight on his back, they could hardly move. And he had half a league left. And he got to the village where the first farmstead stood. And suddenly, there was no weight on his back. He thought, how strange. He felt as light as a feather. You do when you wear mail. You take your mail suit off and you feel very light. It was like that, he thought. He thought, I'm not carrying no mail. There's nobody on my back. He kept on looking. There's nobody there. And all he could hear in the distance was the whimpering and the whooshes and the noises from the marsh. Today we'll call that gas. And so he came to his longhouse. It was evening, and he sat down. He got a beaker of mead and some food. But for days and days this bothered him. He was not the same man for a few days. Until, well, he got fed up and he wanted some answers. So he went to see an old wise man in the village, the one with the long beard. Some say he was a soothsayer, some say not. And he asked him, he told him about what happened. He said, I was at my sister's for a few days, Anna of Nergard. We had some great food and a good feast. But on the way back he explained about the marsh and the noises and the heavy burden. And well, the soothsayer turned round to him and said, whoa, that was a spirit of someone who has been murdered. Some say a spirit of a child. Some say a spirit of an old man. Who knows? I myself would not like to go down that marsh and walk, for it does sound too scary, and I think I'll definitely take Egil with me. And so we come to the end of the story, the fable, the folk tale. Goodbye, and leave a comment.